Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. As I'm making this video right now, Bitcoin is fast approaching two very important levels on my chart. Let's talk about that. Join me. All right, guys, welcome back. So, Bitcoin, the moment of truth has finally arrived. The key levels which we've been watching on the charts is finally at hand, at least by the looks of things as I'm making this video right now. So you can see Bitcoin is fast approaching two important levels, which I'll talk about in this video. Before we talk about those important levels, let me just play for you very quickly what I said to our members recently. But again, for now, because it's broken 28,000, again, odds have increased now to the downside because it's broken support. Again, I think the odds have now increased for a move down towards this support by the looks of things. Again, as long as it remains below 29,411. So I think the odds have now increased for a move towards the panic lows of May, near the 25K levels here, to potentially even here, this zone that we can see here, between 23K to 22K levels here. And this is going to be a very important support zone, by the way. All right, guys, welcome back. So as we said in the members video, we said that if the 28K level breaks this important level you see here on the chart, then downside risk likely increases to the levels which in fact we're reaching today. Let's go back on the higher time frame chart. That's the weekly chart. Now, if we zoom back on this chart, we can see that Bitcoin has already reached one key level already, and that's the 23K level of support. That is, by the way, the red line you see here on the chart. That's a level I mentioned before in a previous video, you may remember. We said that that level happens to be the logarithmic 100% projection if we measure this initial wave down and then project that on a 100% logarithmic basis. That gives us 23,000 approximate levels here, the red line we've tested today. But there is actually another level below that, and I'm sure you know what this level is. In fact, I'm sure you're very familiar with this important level. That's the green line on my chart, and that's the 200 weekly simple moving average. Now you can see that Bitcoin is fast approaching that level as I'm making this video. In fact, by the time you're probably watching this video, it may potentially have already tested it. So let's just zoom in on this chart. And you can see, yeah, it hasn't tested it just yet on the Bitstamp chart. And I think also on the Coinbase chart, we have not yet tested the 200 weekly simple moving average here, which is approximately, as I'm making this video, yeah, it's about 22,390 approximately, or 22,400 approximately here. So you can see the bottom of that wick has not yet made contact with the 200 weekly. Now, it doesn't have to, as we know. Again, these are only probabilities. They're not certainties. But again, it should be interesting to see what Bitcoin does if indeed it does test that level. And you can see that's that level right there. And in case you're wondering, well, why does it matter? Why does it matter if it's approaching the 200 weekly? Well, if I just zoom back this chart a little bit, if I just take it back, you can see this is a level that's been tested many times before and has acted as an important support. For example, 2020. After the crash we had that year in 2020, you can see that fast crash that occurred that year. Notice that even though it did temporarily drop below it, so sometimes price can overreach, can spike down below important support levels, as it happened, for example, in 2020. But notice that it closed, the price actually, the candle bar closed very close to that 200 weekly moving average, the green line. And actually, more or less, it happened to form a bottom there back in 2020. So it formed a bottom, closed very close to that 200 weekly, and then managed to rally off from that level. Same thing happened back in 2019. You can see most famously back in 2019, again, price crashed, it dropped to the 200 weekly. You can see there from the bottom there, and then pretty much started to rally and go higher again. By the way, the same thing happened, if we just go back to 2015. Yeah, back in 2015, very similar situation here. So we can see price dropped to the 200 weekly moving average here on the chart, and pretty soon afterwards started to rally higher from there. So it's a very important level that often gets tested, again, on the charts, and we see price again moving off from these important levels. By the way, it may interest you to know this, that the Ethereum, so let's look at the chart of Ethereum. Ethereum has already made contact with the 200 weekly on the chart. You can see there it is. So that's the 200 weekly, and it's already made contact with it. And by the way, Ethereum, as I'm making this video, is again below the 2018 highs. So notice the 2018 highs of Ethereum are right there approximately at 1420, okay? And we're below that level, but we're testing 200 weekly simple moving average here. So a very important level of support. Again, we're reaching on Ethereum 2 important support levels. Let's see what happens in the coming days and weeks. Will these levels hold on Ethereum or not? Again, the 200 weekly and the 2018 highs. Again, key support levels on Ethereum being tested as we speak. History is being made here on Ethereum. Let's wait and see what happens in the coming days and weeks. So let's go back to our chart of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is also approaching, I think, another important level, as I'm sure you can see it on my chart. Apart from the 200 weekly, we can see where the 2017 highs are, and that's right there at about just under 20K. So that's the blue line on my chart. So the blue line is at 19,666 on the Bitstamp chart. I think on the Coinbase chart, it's slightly higher. The 2017 highs in the Coinbase chart are approximately 19,891. But in any case, it doesn't matter. It's just very close to 20K. So in other words, on Bitcoin, we can see that it's approaching at least 2 or 3 several important levels. Again, 23K, 22K, to potentially the highs. Again, this is an important support, as we know, at the 2017 highs, just under 20K. Okay, so the question is, can Bitcoin hold these levels? That is the big test now for Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin can actually hold these levels, again, if Bitcoin can actually show to us and actually prove to us it's going to hold these levels, again, the levels we're approaching right now from 23, 22 to approximately the levels of the 2017 highs, if it can actually show to us and persuade us by holding these levels and seeing a strong bounce off of these levels, then it may actually increase the odds that the year-long correction, the correction that started from a year ago, as I'm sure you probably know, it started back in the summer of last year, that major correction, which has proceeded all the way down now to the levels we're at right now, near 23, 22K. So that's the big question. Could these levels, the question is, can these levels, again, from the 200 moving average here to 23K to likely the 2017 highs, can these levels act as strong support and finally end this correction? We shall see. Again, we don't know the answer to that question just yet, but that's something we'll have to find out in the coming days and weeks. Because here's the thing, guys. If Bitcoin, and I say if Bitcoin cannot hold and respect these levels, then it may potentially overshoot. It may potentially spike lower. As I'm sure you know, Bitcoin has a habit sometimes of spiking lower, like for example it did back in the year 2020. So let's see what happens here in the next few days and weeks. It's going to be very interesting. Again, history is being made here as I'm speaking. By the way, as I'm sure you know that in a recent video I mentioned that the trader and analyst Gareth Soloway, who's a fantastic guy, by the way, trader Gareth Soloway mentioned that his best case level for Bitcoin is about 20K, but his worst case potential scenario, or indeed his worst case level for Bitcoin is about 12K. Now, here's an interesting thing. I'm actually interviewing live Gareth Soloway in the members webinar. So if you're a member, join us on the 15th of June. And that's at 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern, in a live webinar. Again, I'll be talking with Gareth about a whole number of subjects, not just about Bitcoin. We'll talk about also, indeed, technical analysis in general, and also how he approaches the markets. So that's a live members webinar with trader and analyst Gareth Soloway. And by the way, if you're not a member, you can join and become a member today. And that's the link right there to become a member. It also gives you 3 months extra free. And I'll put the link for in the description as well. Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to seeing the next video update. Bye for now.